Top Stunning Photos from History. Part 47, Special Edition. A young fan goes bananas for the Beatles in Seattle on August 21, 1964. Bill Murray around 1970s. Christopher Robin and his fiancée Leslie de Selincourt, April 1948. General Dwight D. Eisenhower addresses American paratroopers prior to D-Day. Rare photo of a teenage Madonna in an early 1977. Colorized photograph of a photographer busy at work at the Jersey Shore in 1912. Future film star Marilyn Monroe, on the beach as a toddler with her mother Gladys Baker, circa 1929. Ryan Reynolds holding a dead fish in 1983. Hawaii finally became a state in 1959. A soldier in Vietnam takes a break to catch up on the articles, 1967. Drinking Japanese Coca-Cola in strange glasses, 1966. Worshippers receive papal blessing at St. Peter's Basilica, Rome, 1860. Playboy creator Hugh Hefner, Chicago, 1966. Trimming with garden shears, Great Britain, 1920. American entertainer Harry Moore tries a smoking device to prevent his bed linen from catching fire if he falls asleep with a cigarette still lit, 1953. Marshall Field's department store horse-drawn vehicle, Chicago, Illinois, USA, 1897. Bono, Paul McCartney and Freddie Mercury, 1985. The main feature of American Girls of the 1980s, permed hair and no tattoos. Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1969. Michael Jackson relaxes with two dwarfs on the set of Captain IO, 1986. A screaming crowd of teenage girls is detained by police before an Elvis Presley concert, 1956. Arrest for not wearing a mask during the flu epidemic, San Francisco, 1918. Earliest known photo of working girl in American motel, 1880. Shot showing people on a date wearing gas masks to highlight pollution and environmental issues, 1970s. James Bucky Welch, who lost both arms at age 7 while saving the family dog from an oncoming train, 1964. Can you spot the ghost in this old photo from 1900? "23-year-old Pamela Anderson in her first photo shoot for Playboy magazine, February 1990. Clothes made from money during hyperinflation in Germany, 1923. A Filipino survivor of the Manila Massacre shows a Japanese officer attempting to cut off his head, 1945. First lawnmower at the Missouri Botanical Garden, 1916. An elephant named Queenie, known in the 1950s as the world's only water skiing elephant. A German pilot puts on an electrically heated mask, World War I. The cover of the humor magazine National Lampoon on the eve of the 1976 Summer Olympics, many accused the USSR of posing as women as men. Ornella Muti, aka Francesca Romana Rivelli, 1970s. Street basket seller, 1925, London. Selling cigarettes from a hospital bed, 1950s, the U.S. Department of Health believed that smoking helps reduce stress and curb appetite. Children's slide-in car of Tsarevich Alexei in the Alexander Palace, Russian Empire, 1911. A pro-sugar ad that appeared in the May 10, 1971 issue of Time magazine. Beach suits in ancient Egyptian style, 1956. After realizing that poor women were using the flour sacks to make clothing for their children, some flour mills started using floured fabric for their sacks, 1939. Boy standing next to his riding boar, 1930s. Burlesque dancer, 1963. Teachers getting wasted on spring break, 1910. "18-year-old Jodie Foster, 1981. Catherine Buck arrested for stealing sheets, February 3, 1905. Elizabeth Taylor, 1952. Questionable music, 1905. Unusual space for strollers at the front of a bus, New Zealand, 1950. Iconic and glamorous photo of Mara Corday, 1950s. Milk for the road, milking a cow on the platform of King's Cross Station, London, 1920s. Google's first server, USA, 1996. Garbage collectors at work, Paris, 1950. Girl under arrest with an arrow in her leg, Belgian Congo, 1979. A young man gallantly helps a lady onto a bicycle, 1973. A huge gold nugget weighing more than 200 kilograms, from which 93 kilograms of pure gold was extracted, 1872. Catacombs of the Capuchin Monastery in Palermo, Italy, 1950. Helen Slater, 1984. The grocery store of the late 19th century, USA. Brigitte Bardot on set, 1954. A man tries to fill a glass with moonshine that is poured out of a window by a federal agent during the Prohibition era, USA, 1925. Blind kids examining a cat for the first time, 1981. Louis Sayers scoliosis treatment, 1880s. The Beatles, Yesterday and Today, 1966. Faces of War, a banquet for French soldiers who received grievous injuries during World War I, Henri Manuel, Paris, 1925. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno compete at an early 1970s bodybuilding competition. Young couple standing at a speed limit sign, Oklahoma, 1920s. Jacob Nacken, the tallest Nazi soldier, 221 centimeters, 1944. A policeman in San Francisco scolds a man for not wearing a mask during the 1918 influenza pandemic. Ronald Reagan exposing his partially shaved head before the applause of well-wishers who saw him off at the airport, 1989. Donald Trump at Studio 54, popular nightclub in 1977. Betty Brosmer, the pin-up star with the impossible waist, 1951. A former prisoner points out the most brutal guard, Germany, 1945. Man with Down syndrome, 1890s. A man arrested for cross-dressing emerging from a police van, New York, 1939. Goodyear illuminated tires, 1961. A small kitten smiling at the camera, 1955. Photo of Marilyn Monroe first wedding, she was 16 years old, 1942. The oldest Indian, John Smith, managed to live in 3 centuries at once. It is alleged that he lived for about 137 years. Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau carries the country's future Prime Minister Justin Trudeau under his arm, Ottawa, 1973. Republican Party supporters and Democratic Party supporters fight with snowballs in front of the Capitol, 1921. Marilyn Monroe's smoking break on the set of the film There's No Business Like Show Business, 1954. Service at the Track Restaurant in Los Angeles, 1950s. Food was delivered via conveyor belt directly to cars. Experimental receiver transmitter for signal troops, 1938. Arnie supporting disabled athletes, 1983. Photographer Léon Gimpel befriended a group of children from the Grenada Street neighborhood in Paris who had established their own army, 1915. A woman smiling and goofing around while taking photos, late 1800s. A Rwandan man with Amasunzu hairstyle, 1923. A soldier uses a specially made mask to hide the signs of plastic surgery, 1919. Soldiers paying tribute to 8 million horses, donkeys and mules that died during World War I, 1915. Kindergarten children were asked on Father's Day to draw from the memory portraits of their dads, and then compared them to the original, 1949. Theodore Roosevelt's diary entry on Valentine's Day, after his wife and mother died within hours of each other on the same day, 1884. Arnold with Betty Brosmer, next to surfboard, on Venice Beach, 1974. Studio photos of two women, 1900s. Astronaut Leland D. Melvin's official NASA portrait, 2008. A woman dressed up as Batgirl in 1904, 35 years before the creation of Batman. Skin and Zeppelin, the train with propeller and airplane engine from the 1930s. A Highland New Guinean's reaction to seeing a white person for the first time in his life, 1930. Barefoot women do laundry in the backyard of their tenement building, New York, 1903. Firebird 3, General Motors' 1958 car that looks straight out of a sci-fi movie. Donald Trump with alleged mobster Robert Libutti, 1994. Congress of Racial Equality trainees endure an egg shampoo exercise in preparation for remaining calm during nonviolent demonstrations, 1963. Two young men hold a pre-printed sign proclaiming their bond and willingness to be legally wed to one another, circa 1900. A dissatisfied dental patient, 1920s. Absence, 1967. Reason, my wife is planning to get pregnant this weekend and I would like to be present. French actress Mylène Demangeau, 1960s. A police officer playing Duck Duck Goose with children in New York, 1970. Abraham Lincoln in 1861 and 1865. A noticeable four-year contrast against the backdrop of war. A lady walks around renting out books as a walking library, 1908. King Kong, behind-the-scenes photo that show the making of 1933's classic horror. Girls on the Beach in the 1890s. King Olaf V of Norway pays for his ticket with the conductor, 1973. A brave child called the police to protect his mother from being beaten by his father, 1987. The owner of a gas station refuses to fill up a Soviet Lada due to the invasion of Afghanistan, 1980. A diamond mine worker undergoes an X-ray at the end of each shift before leaving the mines, 1954. Workers assigned to compress crowds of passengers on the Japanese subway in 1966. French soldiers display a papier-mâché cow that served as cover for a sniper or observer in no man's land during the First World War. New York, 1954. Marilyn Monroe, 1962. In the 1990s, North Korean leader Kim Jong-il and his son, future leader Kim Jong-un, used fake Brazilian passports to travel to Disneyland. Afghanistan in 1973 and 2016. Advertisement for a gun that shoots a special liquid that kills flies, USA, 1950s. Young JFK playing with his best friend Lem Billings, 1933. A patient at Maryland's Walter Reed General Hospital poses with a plaster cast mask made of his face, 1937. A hooligan in East Berlin, 1987. Sue Lyon sips a milkshake after the movie premiere of Lolita at Sandpipers in Los Angeles, 1962. A Sami family in Lapland, Norway, circa 1900. Two terrified African-American girls flee police officers during a race riot in the Bedford-Stuyvesant, 1964. The smallest car in the world, PLP 500. Speed up to 40 miles per hour, cost $418 in then prices. Queen Elizabeth II shaking hands with national swimming team captain D.G. Owen, 1954. These gigantic fake weapons were used to help soldiers better understand the parts and operation of a weapon, 1956. Rubber Skin Girl or Elephant Girl had skin at the top of her legs that was over a foot long, so it stretched far off her body, 1930s. 11-year-old Brooke Shields partying at Studio 54. One of the first hard drives with a capacity of 5 megabytes, 1956. Mummy Museum in Guanajuato, Mexico, 1957. Late Victorian mountaineers, including a lady fully dressed and corseted, cross a crevasse in the Alps, 1900. A letter from schizophrenic patient Emmy Hawk to her husband. It consists only phrase "Darling, please come," repeated over and over. The last sword duel in history, France, 1967. Melted wax figures rescued from the 1925 fire at Madame Tussauds London Museum. Group photograph of members of the Brighton Swimming Club, Brighton, England, circa 1863. Brothel workers in a photo for clients, Alaska, 1890. A necklace of human teeth, Fiji Island, 19th century. Rare picture of laughing Victorian woman, circa 1880s. Photo of a Soviet war veteran near the eternal flame on the anniversary of Victory Day, 1966. Beatrice Russell, 19, arrested for working in a brothel, 1880. Show of waterproof suits, USA, 1948. Ray Robinson, also known as Charlie No Face, was electrocuted when he touched a high-tension wire in 1919. An X-ray of the pelvis of serial killer Albert Fish reveals needles he had inserted into his pelvic area for pleasure, 1930. Acrobats from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus during their off time between shows, circa 1950s. 1979 photograph shows a Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory employee opening a 44-ton hinged door. Burlesque dancer, 1867. The fastest computer in the world in 1950, the processor frequency is 1 MHz. Members of the Owls, a black women's softball team in the 1930s. To appear headless while taking a photo, aka horsemaning, was a popular way to pose in the 1920s. Causes of death in London, 1632. Either some kind of elephant trick or moments before disaster? 1961. Cairo Mary, a bouncer at Shanghai Red's, 5th and Beacon in San Pedro, escorts a customer to the door, 1953. Strange toys that are not children's, 1890. A little boy has a surprise for his girlfriend, 1954. Cats that sailed on ships until the mid-20th century to catch rodents had passports signed with their paw prints. Janis Joplin Tampa Police Department mugshot, 1969. Passing the Buck, California, 1995. Letter from John Steinbeck to Marilyn Monroe, 1955. Otto Skorzeny, described by Hitler as the most dangerous man in Europe, 1960s. JFK with his children Caroline and John on Halloween night, 1963. "16-year-old rescuer Ronald Reagan, 1927. Marilyn Monroe kisses a kid with muscular dystrophy, 1955. Vintage photograph shows the massive FBI's fingerprint files, 1944. Vintage Halloween costumes, 1942. A brothel in Paris, 1900s. Marilyn Monroe, then still Norma Jean, photographed by André de Diens, 1945. The Leatherman, an itinerant wanderer of French origin, he followed a 365-mile loop in New York and Connecticut from 1857 to 1889. Michelle Obama as a young student at Princeton University in the early 1980s. Schoolchildren hiding under their desks during class, learning what to do during an air raid, Seattle, USA, 1942. Santa Claus carrying a sleigh pulled by turkeys with a mountain of presents, Michigan, 1909. Vatican Rifle Team, 1937. Sharon Stone, 1983. White children outside the home of a black family they set on fire during the Chicago race riots of 1919. World Bank President Paul Wolfowitz takes off his shoes before entering a mosque in Turkey, 2007. A Date in Smog Masks, London, 1953. In the 1950s, New York had a tunnel police. Mike Tyson and his adoptive mother, Camilla Ewald. Spanish dancer Encarnita Alcaraz poses with an airplane, 1925. Portrait of another Victorian Batwoman, shown as Marie Schleinzer, taken at a Delcourt Hoffetelier, Vienna circa 1890. Pablo Picasso in his studio, Paris, 1944. Psychiatric patient after surgery, 1933. Roy Lee, Rocky, Dennis with his mother. Rocky had a rare disease called craniodiaphyseal dysplasia, 1977. Production of chamber pots from German helmets, Denmark, 1945. Old gentleman shows off his strength lifting a homemade barbell, 2 train wheels attached to a steel rod, and 2 British soldiers, 1941. A woman has been very busy shopping, so much so that her helper is hidden under a pile of parcels, 1920s. How to deal with an unruly child, 1860s. Physicist Harold Agnew holds the core of the Fat Man atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki in 1945. The Rothschilds' Illuminati ball costume party in 1972. Hitler, right, during his military service, circa 1916 to 1919. Frozen Niagara Falls, 1902. This is what a hairdryer looked like in the 1880s. You poured hot water into it and combed your hair. Strongman John Jennings, who was called the modern Samson, 1899. "16-year-old Slovenian model Melania Trump at the beginning of her career." A rubber mask with heating coils that supposedly melted wrinkles, 1939. Pictured are a group of traveling freaks who were all a part of the same show, 1932. Members of a women's rock climbing club in Scotland climb a cliff, 1908. Photographing a native from Papua New Guinea, 1944. Pantomime actor from 1870s. Sad clown Emmett Kelly tries to help put out a fire at the Hartford Circus on July 6, 1944, which killed 167 people. Charles Manson cult followers who murdered pregnant actress Sharon Tate, 1969. One of the warehouses filled to the ceiling with victims' boots, Auschwitz, Poland, 1944. A man dressed as a mythical figure of the Senufo people in Burkina Faso in 1952. A circus dwarf riding a zebra in Yorkshire, England in 1935. Women showing off the weapons they used to round up 4 men who had been terrorizing the neighborhood for 3 weeks, 1950. A giraffe licks a man at the London Zoo in London, England, 1931. A model shows off an exercise device in the US in 1937. A man being strapped to an electric chair at Sing Sing Prison in New York, 1926. Over 7,000 bags of gold and silver stolen by the Nazis in 1945. The battleship USS Galena, one of the first 3 ironclads of the U.S. Navy, 1862. Marilyn Monroe on a break on a film set. Eve Arnold, 1960. The White House during renovation, 1950. British actress Leslie Ann Down, 1971. Dancers wearing these costumes performed in front of the men's house in the village of Toi, Papua New Guinea, in 1921. Pincushion Man, 1931. Jewish children walk hand in hand, unaware that they are walking to their deaths in the gas chambers of Auschwitz, 1943. The Germans test a Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighter, 1935. An Indian executioner, India, 1903. Photographers and the Clinton family cat, 1993. Dubai City before the oil discovery, 1950s. Sophia Loren, 1950s. Beach of England during the war, 1941. Confiscated opium pipes, 1923. In this photo, an emaciated 18-year-old Jewish girl after being liberated from the Dachau concentration camp, 1945. Electroconvulsive therapy, more commonly known as electroshock, 1961. Jim aboard the Titanic, 1912. The original Mount Rushmore sculpture, 1941. Setting the world record for the most passengers in a Mini, 15 people, 1966. Black babies were used as alligator bait during slavery in America, 1800s. Anti-Jewish Lviv pogroms in 1941. Rehearsing in Hollywood during the flu epidemic, 1937. The Great Omi, aka the Zebra Man, who attended Oxford University, 1925. Skulls of people who were trepanned as a teaching aid for medical students, 1951. Farrah Fawcett, 1970s. Cat meat vendor, London, 1933. Google Maps from 1963. Hotline operators helped callers find their location. The process of putting on an evening dress, 1850 to 1860. Animal trainer Jack Benavida with his pets, 1905. Childhood photographs of leaders of countries participating in World War II. Marilyn Monroe having breakfast in bed at the Bel Air Hotel in Los Angeles, 1953. Major Eric Bond of Sweden lights a cigarette after being shot twice, Congo, 1961. Farmer Joseph Swan published a photo of a giant potato in 1889, which skyrocketed sales until it was discovered that the giant potato was carved from wood. In the early 1960s, Brigitte Bardot became the founder of the fashion for topless tanning. Locals pull out the mummies of the Cathedral of Venzone in Italy. The mummies go back to the 1600s, 1962. 9 Ways of Holding Your Cigarette and What It Says About You, 1950s. A Farman airplane with rockets attached to its struts, 1915. Arranged skeleton heads in Rome's Capuchin crypt, 1900. A blindfolded American construction worker carefully walks along a steel girder, suspended 20 stories above the streets of New York City, 1933. A forest of oil derricks sprouts up on the Signal Hill oil field, Long Beach, California, 1937. Albert Einstein and his sister Maya Einstein. New York, 1939. Miss World finalists, 1986. Who would you vote for? Write in the comments. A woman takes an autograph from a survivor of the Titanic disaster, April 1912. Native Americans at the White House at the time of the passing of the Indian Citizenship Act, granting them full rights as U.S. citizens, 1924. P.T. Barnum and Bailey's Combined Circus Performers, New York, 1924. Michelle Obama on campus at Princeton University in 1983. Who still has doubts that she is a woman?